to have traffic lights. We knew that as a fact. It had been a massive industrial town, incredibly successful. We manufactured bicycles and tin and enamelware, and kind of we had this thriving industry, locks. We had a brewery. We were like a massive, thriving town. And then when the industrial decline came in, it just became like a ghost town. And the most heartbreaking thing about living in a town that was once a strong working class town, and being the child of working class people who've seen that decline, is that they are apologetic and they feel guilty. When they would walk us around the town, they would point out these big grand buildings that were boarded up now, and they would just say, we're really sorry. You know, this used to be an incredible town, but it is now a ghost town. It's kind of like, this is what it would have been like if you were here 20 years, but we let that go and we're really sorry and we screwed up for your kid. And you're like, it wasn't you. But, you know, that generation felt a massive responsibility that they'd seen their industry decline. You're like, it's not you. We're talking about a global economy. You know, this is the trickle-down effect of this. But they, you know, the working classes felt guilt on top of the fact that they were trying to struggle and trying to make things better for their children. And I, you know, from a very early age, remember just thinking as my dad was apologising for what a terrible place he was bringing me up in and how poor we were, just thinking, this isn't your fault. I'm going to stay angry about this for the rest of my life. I'm going to find out why this happened. I know it's not you. I'm going to find out how this happened and tell those stories and make sure that people know that it's not their fault, because, you know, to internalise that kind of guilt, when you need to start going, no, I need to find out what the system is that made that happen. You know, I need to make sure that people are informed about this. And it's a really key thing in the book that Johanna's dad, who's basically based on my dad, is telling all these stories about what the working classes used to be like, what things were like before privatisation. He's got this big rant about, you know, you'd walk down the street in England and you owned, because they were state-owned, you owned the post office, you owned the gas, you owned the electricity, you owned the phones, you felt like you were part of something, and now they're trying to sell it back to those of us who've got money, kind of like, you've got to remember, kid, that things were different. And the thing is, again, that still we don't really, working class culture and history is still relayed generally by middle class academics who write about it. And the kind of things my dad and all of his friends and all of my uncles and aunts were saying about working class culture, they were just oral histories. You never saw this stuff written down. You still don't see it in history books. And the working class's take on what happened in the 1980s was something that I was very, very keen to put in the book. So yeah, that was my serious bit. And then I got back to the wanking. That was yes.
How much of that anger in Johanna's dad is your anger?
I try. Well,
because he's really pissed off Thatcher.
Yeah, no, he's furious. Well, yeah, because I mean, he knows it's like a working class man, that's his life. He's over, really. I have observed, not just from what happened to my class and from my family and from my dad, but also from people that I've interviewed. You know, I've been a journalist since I was 16, and I've gone and interviewed anybody who interested me politically or culturally. And I was always drawn very early on to artists and politicians that were angry. And over the years, I've seen how their anger works out, and I've seen that 9 times out of 10, anger does not work. It starts you up, it'll get you off your arse, it might make you start writing about something or protesting about something or get you into Parliament. But if you communicate angrily, people just hear the emotion and they will be emotional back at you, and then suddenly you're just in an argument where people aren't listening to what you're saying. You could be putting forward the most perfect policy that would change everything, but all people are hearing is the anger in your voice, and they're just going to respond with anger. And Twitter has just, you know, if you look on social media now, that is that in excelsis. There are people out there sort of talking about really serious things, but because they're doing it emotionally and from a place of hurt and anger, all that's happening is all these people who should be allies, particularly on the left, are just fighting with each other and ripping each other apart because they're not listening to what they're saying, they're being angry. So I learned very, very early on, don't be angry, it doesn't get anything done, calm down, write the most truthful and honest and logical thing you can, and then if you can, put humour into it, because it just relaxes everybody. You know, if you look at the way that people are when they're on social media, people are very tense. You know, there's a lot of clenched buttocks out there. People kind of... there's that cartoon of a man kind of late at night on his computer really angrily, and his wife's coming and goes, "What are you doing, darling?" He went, "I can't come to bed, someone's wrong on the internet." And that's what so much, which is such a waste of an incredible thing. The whole world can talk to itself. You know, the whole world can communicate with each other. And at the moment, for a variety of reasons, the default tone is very often one of anger. And that's why humour's so important, because as soon as you just, you know, you can't keep your bum clenched if you're laughing. And that's very much been my process.
About, I mean, where you're from and self-esteem, I was thinking a lot of that what is happening to all the brilliant people from the working class? Because if you don't have a plan B, whereas you have to be the one to support yourself, you don't have any parents that can say, okay, so you failed being a great artist, we'll back you up.
Yeah.
How did you find your courage and your self-esteem to sort of make a risky choice? Because you did a risky choice.
Well, there's a point where you are so fucked that no choice you make is risky. I mean, I had literally no options because I hadn't been to school. And so I had no qualifications whatsoever. I had no friends. My dad didn't know anyone who had a job, so he wouldn't have been able to get me a job through friends. So, I mean, genuinely the only thing that I would have been qualified to do would have been to become a prostitute at that point. And kind of like it was something I was quite interested in. I knew that I wanted to have sex, and I was like, people would pay me. I was 14, you know, I didn't really know what the ins and outs of it would be, literally. I was just kind of like, that's something I could do. And I remember telling this to my sister, who, rather than just sort of counselling me through kind of the politics of that, or the morality of that, just going, I share a bunk bed with you, that is not going to happen. I'm not having your customers climbing up my ladder. And you having sex with them, that's not going to happen. So that was, so you know, to be a writer was the only option that I had. That was literally the only thing that I could have done. So it wasn't that risky an option. I mean, I still genuinely don't know what I would have done if I hadn't been a writer. I hadn't, there is no plan. You know, for some people there is no plan B. You're just doing all that there is. And luckily my plan B was one that I really liked and that earns you money. It's great. Hurrah for plan A.
Do you ever go back to Wolverhampton?
Yeah, I went back there last week. We're the last year's been insane. So from this time last year, I wrote this book. Then I wrote the sitcom Raised by Wolves, which we've just finished shooting now, and which goes out in January. I've written the screenplay for How to Build a Girl and another film that's set in the 16th century. And wrote and did a stand-up tour in the UK. So it's been quite intense. So I went, and the sitcom was about basically our family when we were young, kind of like, you know, sort of like a big working class family, taught at home in a council house in Wolverhampton. And so we had to go back there last week to shoot a little documentary about it. And I couldn't believe it. Like, the local pub that we used to go to, that was a really rough pub where kind of Hell's Angels used to drink, had turned into a gastropub and now served oysters and champagne. I was like, what? How could this have happened? I just became intolerable. I was just sitting there going, I'm eating oysters in Wolverhampton. I know, I just couldn't believe that my hometown changed so much. So yes, I know that was amazing going back there. Wolverhampton's doing really well for itself. I was so pleased. But what was really funny was we were doing the documentary. We were talking about kind of the opening scene of the sitcom is because this family are weird, kind of hippie kind of kids, and they keep, you know, there's this boy that the main character who's based on me loves, and every time he sees her, he just shouts, "You bummer! Oh, you bummer!" He hates her. And the documentary crew were going, did that used to happen to you a lot? Would you get people shouting at you? And me and my sister, I wrote it with my sister, we were like, yeah, all the time. And they were like, well, it must have been great therapy for you to write about it in your childhood, and you must feel so much better about it now. And we were like, yeah, it was. And at that point, a teenage boy walked past us as we were filming, just went, ah! I was like, seriously, still? Still? I'm 39, I could be your mother. God, I could be your mother. It's amazing the boys who were bigger than me would pick on me when I was younger, and now the boys that could be my son still know that they can bully and victimise me when I go back to my hometown.
Yeah, never sort of quit doing that.
I know, I just obviously smell a victim. They obviously, when I'm in that place, they just feel my weakness.
They happen to do. No, but I was thinking still, and maybe I'm just fishing for it, it's completely alright for you to say no, but I sometimes think about, like, oh shit, maybe I have to go back to cleaning. Like, yes. If everything fucks up. Like, do you think about that sometimes? Like,
I was a cleaner.
I mean, you obviously have a load of success, but like, you know.
I mean, that's one of the reasons why I've been so driven over the last year, why I've done like film and TV and still keep doing columns for the Times and write fiction and non-fiction, because it's like, even if I screw up 4 of those, I'll still have 2 left. I mean, that's very, and I think that's a real working class thing as well, that, you know, sort of like all the working class kids that I know that have made good, you know, there's various traits about the working classes when they make good. That they'll bring their family along for it. Like if there's a band, a working class band, to make it big, 9 times out of 10 they'll get like their dads to become part of the road crew, and their brother will work on the t-shirt stall, and they bring all their friends with them, and they sort of spread their money around, and kind of you bring your entire street with you. Another trait is that you spend your money really quickly. You just spunk it. You're like a competition winner, just going hey. And the third one is that you're just driven. As soon as you get any kind of success, you're kind of like, no, I can't leave here, and they work themselves to death. But we're working class, so we've got that kind of constitution. We're kind of our grandparents worked down mines, and we just have to write 5,000 words a day. It's we're built for it. We have the constitution.
Certainly, yes. No, but really, was that are you scared sometimes? I will all end sort of.
No, because I've got so many ideas and I've got so many irons in fire. I'm just kind of like statistically, I reckon I'm going to be okay here for a couple of years. Like even if I couldn't write, I could go back and do stand-up. I did stand-up comedy this year, which was enormous fun. Kind of like 2,000-seater venues in the UK, and kind of do signings for 3 hours afterwards.
Oh, okay.
And that was enormous fun. So kind of like I reckon I've very carefully made sure I've got a lot of options, because I've got nothing else.
You have a lot. You should do the kissing routine in your stand-up.
Well, I was thinking about this. I was thinking that would be a really good thing to just, like, in the audience, make sure the lights are up earlier on. I can just be there and kind of, like, pick someone in the audience that I will then use as my guinea pig for the kissing scene when I do the live stand-up thing. Just kind of, like, get a beautiful boy up on stage every night. That's kind of
we still have time,
If we want to put the house lights up and I can pick someone to kiss, I would be very happy to do that.
all flushed and warm. Well, the 90s.
Never wear a jumper dress. Many things that I've learned in my life. Never, because they're a betrayer.
Yes.
This is I tell teenage girls this. I'm like, everything. The thing about a jumper dress is that it's too hot to wear indoors. But outdoors, it's usually too bulky to put a coat or a jacket over the top of. You've got no other layer underneath it, so you can't take a layer off, and it bobbles really quickly, so you just spend all your time picking little bobbles off like your desk. It's kind of a betrayer.
Okay, speaking of advice, since you gave freely of them in how to be a woman, actually, how should I be a woman? Give me more advice.
Well,
what is the most soundproof advice that I should bring?
I've got millions.
I can imagine.
I mean, the key ones are, for teenage girls, I think the good you start with teenage girls. I'm obsessed with teenage girls, and everything I write will be about teenage girls. People have gone, well, everything you write seems to be about teenage girls. Do you not have anything else to write? I'm like, no. It's like Woody Allen. Like, Woody Allen. not that way, teenage girls. Not that way. Not in a marrying your daughter way. Not that way. The other Woody Allen way. And then he always just, for the first 20 years, just wrote about neurotic Jews who live in New York. And it's kind of like, that was what Woody Allen did, and that's what I'm going to do. So there's these 3 books, and the next one after that set in the 6th century in Scotland. And that will be about a fat, gobby, working class teenage girl. Everything I'm going to do, because I think the key thing about feeling weird as a woman is kind of, often sort of this feeling of maybe we are inferior because we haven't really done anything for the last, for all of civilization. For the last 100,000 years we didn't really do anything. There is no female Mozart or Einstein or the Beatles. Kind of, what did we do? And so my life's work is to take a character like me and keep putting her back in history and showing why we didn't do anything then. All the bullshit that you had to put up with in all those different centuries, and why there have been millions and millions of girls that we never heard about or whose stories are still hidden that I intend to uncover. And all the times that history was just stopped over and over and over again, all the times that history was stopped from progressing, all the time that women were stopped from progressing, and just show that all the way through history. So it's always going to be about gobby, fat, teenage, working class girls. So that's all I'm going to do.
Okay, back to
the key things are if you've got these 3 hobbies, you can't go far wrong. 1, long country walks. You need to be in touch with your body, you need to keep fit, get some air in your lungs. You can always, if you feel a bit mad, go for a long walk, you'll always feel better. Number 2, masturbation, obviously. And number 3, the revolution. And if you've got those 3 things as your hobby, long country walks, masturbation and revolution, you will not go far wrong. As a woman, whenever you feel self-loathing, to remember that you're going, hang on, I feel self-loathing. Is it because of my hair? Is it because of my thighs? Is it because I don't have the right clothes? No, it's because you're living in a world that wasn't built for you. You're not normal. Everything we are surrounded by, generally, by and large, was built for men. And it works for them, but it doesn't work for you. And that's why you feel weird. And instead of self-internalizing that and going self-loathing and going, I'm wrong, you have to go, no, the world is wrong. It's that whole thing of when you go, you know, someone tells you it's not normal, particularly if you're a girl, people go, it's not normal to do that. And you always add one word to that. You go, it's not normal, yet. I'm about to make it normal. That's where we are in history.
Not normal can sometimes make us feel anxiety.
Yes.
Like Joanna, and she medicates this anxiety with, I would say, sugar, alcohol, and masturbation.
Yes.
So my question to you is, what do you find the most efficient?
Well, I mean, if you can soak a donut in rum and then put it in your mouth while you're masturbating, that's gonna sort pretty much everything out. I suffer a lot from anxiety, and I have very bad panic attacks, and for years I thought, oh God, that's a bad thing, until I realised that first of all it was making me work hard, because the only thing that will calm me down if I'm anxious is to write. Like, kind of, that's instantly, it stops panic attack dead, because I'm in control of the laptop. And secondly, the whole thing about feeling anxious is the same as with depression or any one of those kind of mental disorders, is it just depends how you say the sentence. You go, I feel too much. You know, I feel more than anyone else. I feel too much. Like, that's a bad thing. And you flip it around and go, I feel too much. I feel more than everyone else. I feel more. And as soon as it's like that thing of going, yet, you go, no, this is amazing. Like, kind of, I have one less layer of skin. You know, I have one less layer of skin. You have one less layer of skin. That's extraordinary. You're feeling things much more intensely than everybody else. And the most exquisite music, you know, all the music that I love anyway, I think is the most exquisite, is the music that is simultaneously the most joyful, but the most melancholy and anxious and racked, because you can only really have those massive highs when you have those big lows. You know, the knowledge of mortality and how short our time on Earth is the thing that makes you love life the most, and makes you live fast and burn fast and you know, and want to achieve things. You know, if you're just living one of those kind of, I mean, this is the bullshit you have to tell yourself when you're having a massive panic attack before but, you know,
like being on your floor.
Yeah, exactly. But you have to tell yourself, like, I would never want to live a life like that, you know? I would never want that. I'm happy to do this. Obviously, you're usually saying that when you're up here, going, yes, I'd love to have an uppy life. When you're down here, you're like, you know what, I probably could. But you know, you just keep walking. You know, with any mental disorder, kind of like you just go, this will pass at some point. It always does. So I'm just going to keep walking one step at a time until this becomes a memory. You know, this is maybe this is not an amazing moment. This is hopefully something that will later become an amazing, great anecdote. You know, playing those tricks in your mind can sort of get you through without actually any medication. I have a Valium. I've still never taken it. I have it there. Sometimes I think I'll let myself lick it, but I still haven't yet had the Valium. It's a totemic Valium that I've had in a jar for 10 years, and I'm like, no, I will not have that. I will go high and I will go low. I will handle this. I'm going to do it.
So what do you do? Some talk when you always sort of end with a punchline.
Sorry.
No, they should be sorry. But like seriously, like what do you reach out for? Walks or wanking or?
Oh God! What do I do? Well, I mean, luckily I don't have to masturbate that much because I've got a husband. So that's been very useful to me.
Wait, stop! That's not this. Really?
I know what I
You shouldn't stop masturbating just because you have a husband.
Oh, don't worry about that. No,
that is
I keep myself topped up 2 or 3
see.
times a week, but you know, kind of, you know, he's there. We both work from home, so it's very useful. The idea of when, you know, if you're being a freelancer and working from home.
See, that's why I have to read your books on restaurants.
Yeah,
actually, yeah, I wouldn't get anything done otherwise.
No, exactly. Yeah, working from home is useful. And what do? I make sure that I exercise every day. Basically, I know I go nuts if I don't go for a big walk or swim every day. Yep. But for me, the thing that the real thing isn't sugar or alcohol. It's work. That is where I feel calm. If I am writing, like that's why I find writing so easy. It makes everything. it's just, to have a laptop there to type and to take all of these thoughts and to just put them calmly, and you know when you've hit it, you just get to the end of it and you go, yeah, I've finished. I believe that kind of all my sort of madness and depression and anxiety is that I've got all of these books in here. Like, and Stephen King says this, that kind of like all the great books and plays and stuff that exist, you've just got to go in there and find them. Your job as a writer is to, you just have to go and find them and, transcribe them, basically. That's your job. You don't create stuff, you find them and transcribe them and serve them up as faithfully as you can. And I've got them all in there, and gradually, one by one, as I write them and put them out there, then I just feel a bit calmer and a bit saner. And I just hope that I get more out before I die, which is why I'm writing as fast as I can, because I can't stop smoking.
There's a pretty moving part about cynicism in the book, and why it sort of kills. Because you use it for protection,
yes.
Protecting yourself, and then how it kills slowly all joy you have in life. How did you find your own cynicism as a girl?
Well, that key bit in the cynicism, that was another big thing that I really wanted to write about in the book, and it was because there was one summer where Twitter and social media just went completely insane, and there were a lot of really young kids going on there who were very cynical, particularly about kind of campaign that was happening on the left, and sort of movements of feminism that were happening in the UK, and you just got lots of people sort of going, who were looking at sort of like feminists who are out there and going, yeah, but why have they talked about these issues and not these issues? So fuck them, they're wrong. I don't believe in feminism. And it's like, why are you so cynical? Why are you cynical about people who are trying to achieve things? And it's like, well, cynicism is fear. These kids are angry that these people are going to let them down. And to be that young and to be that cynical and angry, anger is just fear brought to the boil.
I'm sorry, but let's speak about how you handle your own cynicism.
Oh God, I'm not cynical at all. No, God, no, I'm a big flappy gonk. No,
don't believe me.
No, I mean, I can't. I mean, I sort of went. I tried to be cynical when I was kind of like 17 or 18, which is sort of what happens to Johanna in the book when I was at Melody Maker. And I sort of wrote horrible reviews of bands because I saw that was kind of how the big journalists got on. They would kind of write, evil reviews of these bands and slag them off. And the man who became my husband just kind of like saw the worst one that I'd written, where I wished a band dead. I imagined this band dead and in a hole in the ground and me shoveling earth onto their faces. I was 17, writing this about a band who just wanted to write songs. That's how cynical I was then. I was just like, no, that's what you've got to do to be a writer. I'll do it. I'll kill a band. And my husband just took me to one side and went, it's a bit off. That's as near as he's ever got to ever having a go at me, ever in 20 years. Where I was just, because he's such a lovely man, he's just a big cardigan who loves a crowded house. And I was just like, God, Pete thinks I'm off. This is bad. And I kind of like, that was the point where, because and I realised this sort of years later on, there's no difference between pretending to be a cunt, as I was at that point, and actually being a cunt. Like kind of pretending to be evil and actually being evil. There's no difference. It's exactly the same thing. You're still putting the same words out there. You're still getting the same emotions back. You're still triggering the same emotions in people. And at that time I was pretending to be a bad person, because I kind of, if I saw a worm on the pavement, I would pick it up and put it on some grass, kind of going, there you go, mate, I'll help you out, kind of, I thought of myself as a lovely person, and yet if you went to look for evidence of that in what I wrote, there was nothing. It's like, if I died tomorrow, people will think that I was kind of a bad, angry person who hated music, and that's not what I feel at all. I've got to make sure that what I write is what I feel. And so yeah, I was cured of cynicism at the age of, 17 by just my husband sort of going, that was all it took. And the moment that changed my life was, again, Russell T Davies, who I've spoken about, he wrote Doctor Who and stuff, like, he came up to me at a party when I was about 23 and just came over and went, do you know what you are? Do you know what you are, darling? I was like, no. He went, you're an enthusiast, that's what you are. You are for things. When you write about things, you write about the things you love, and so few people do that. That's what you are. And that felt like being kissed by Glinda in The Wizard of Oz. It was like, that's what I am, and you must be for things. And so, I'd so rarely write about things that I don't like. I'd rather than tearing something down you don't like, I'd rather create something that I do like. I think that just makes everything better. You see so much of this on the internet as well. Just kind of people who don't like things just spend all their time fighting and trying to destroy something. And at the end of it all, you've got some rubble. It's like, well, just completely ignore what they're doing and go make the thing that you want here. That's invent, invent, invent. That's the key. You know, and again, that's how sort of men have got ahead. They're not constantly tearing. You see this in feminism all the time. Other feminists tearing other feminists down, and so all you've got is rubble. We never get around to building something. And it's like, you know, meanwhile, men are constructing their castles, and that's what we need to do. Don't argue with anyone you don't agree with. Create the future yourself and create the thing that you think they should have done. You know, stop asking other women to do things for you. Make your thing instead. There's, you know, that's where the fun is. That's where the money is. You know, that's where the power is. Do that. That's the future.
I think I have a lot of